Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the hktpodcast. Once again, this podcast is literally supported by our friends at Sax Underwear. Incidentally, I am sat here right now wearing my Lucky Podcast pants, which is a pair of Quest 2.0s in black. They feature all the usual Sax benefits, such as moisture wicking, they're ergonomically fitted, they are anti-odor, and of course, they feature the patented ballpark pouch, which is like an angel's hand, cupping your nuts and stopping them from sticking to your thighs. If you want to own your own pair of Lucky Pants, just head to saxunderwear.com or dive into your local bike shop, running, mountaineering, whatever shop, and ask for Sax Underwear. If they don't have it, then tell them they should have it. It's that simple. Thank you, Sax Underwear, for supporting the podcast. We are also supported by 35bikes.com. 35 Bikes are dedicated to bringing you the best bike components for the best prices. So we have brake pads in stock for everything. They start at just $6.99, and we do organic and sintered. There's also mudguards on there and other bits and bobs. They also host our merch store. We've got a few of the limited edition mountain range t-shirts left. So if you want to grab a t-shirt, it helps support the podcast. Just head to 35bikes.com. If you enter the promo code podcast, you'll get 20% off your entire order and also get free shipping too. 35bikes.com, promo code podcast, and let's hand it over to our mate Ollie Wilkins for an intro.
Welcome to the Hook It podcast, endorsed by @odub_23. Add me, tag me, follow me, please follow me.
What is up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of the Hook It podcast. Today we're on episode number 53. I'm going to be joined by Jase Macalpine shortly. But before we crack on, I want to say a massive thank you, as usual, to everyone for stopping by and listening. If you're a new listener, then welcome to the podcast. And if you've been around for a while, then yeah, huge thank you for your continued support. It means a bunch. Obviously, if you get to the end of this episode and you want to do something nice, then feel free to leave a little iTunes review, make it as funny as possible so I can share it across our social media. And if you can, give this episode a share. It goes so far, you wouldn't even believe it. If you do enjoy it, just hit the share button, man. Share it across your social media networks. It's been a couple of weeks since I put out an actual episode other than EWS or Bust. If you listen to the behind the scenes episodes from Crankworks, you probably gathered it was a hell of a lot of hard ass work, but an amazing experience. So thank you again to the Crankworks team for having me out there to make some podcasts. And I met some rad people, some of which are coming up on this podcast too. So keep your eyes and ears out for that. On today's episode, I am joined by Jase Macalpine. Jase's podcast called Gypsy Tales was recommended to me recently by a listener. So I checked it out. Decided to reach out and just get him on the podcast for a chat. Like we're in sort of like a similar position with the podcast growing and stuff. So what better thing to do than just have a conversation and throw it out there for you guys to listen to. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. And without further ado, let's welcome Jase Macalpine. All right, man, I hit the magic button to record, which is always super awkward. So sorry.
Nah, it's all good. Trust me, like I definitely know how it works on your end as well. So
yeah, it's always strange, isn't it? Like you can chat for ages and then you're like, right, start recording, and it like sometimes the dynamic can just totally flip on its head, and you're just like, what the hell just happened? Well, it's all good.
Yeah, I've been just like pressing record from like the rip, and then
Really?
just kind of like picking a slot to start. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. Probably should have done that, to be fair. Anyway, quick intro. On today's show, we have Jase Macalpine, who is the host and editor and production assistant and everything probably of the Gypsy Tales podcast, which I was turned on to recently by a fellow listener. So we figured, why not invite you on the podcast and have a chat, and don't really have a great deal of planning in place and just see what the hell happens. So here we are.
That's it.
Here we are.
No, we don't need any plans. We can just kind of talk it out.
Yeah, we can, for sure. This is the first time I've ever done a morning podcast. So usually because of like time difference and stuff, I end up staying up like super late, or usually aim for like early evening. But yeah, this is cool, man. It's nice. Got up, went for a walk. Feel good. It's nice. Up and out, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. Like Australia's such a weird. It's such a weird time zone. Like I know you were saying you lived in the US for a while, and like I've got friends all over Europe, and then I got friends to the US. So I feel like, I definitely feel you juggling the time zone.
I always screw it up too. Like every time. Like now I'm like, right, I've got it in my head. It's 8:30 here, means it's 6:30 yours. And then we actually sit down, and I'm like, I'm an hour early. I don't know how the hell that happened. So, oh well.
No, it works for me. Honestly, it's all good.
Sweet. So how are you, dude? What's going on?
Man, no, I actually just launched a new podcast like 20 minutes ago. So I'm sitting here and I'm trying not to look at my phone, but it's kind of, you get that initial little, like, I don't know, I guess like feedback, and people start following the account and stuff, because it's all through social these days. But it's actually with a guy by the name of Corey Parker, and he was a rugby league. He's like one of the best rugby league players.
Right.
Kind of the modern league. And he actually came on Gypsy Tales about 4 months ago. I think he was like the 4th episode of the podcast. And then after that, he was like, he does like commentary with Fox Sports. So yeah, he hit me up and was like, dude, that was a lot of fun. Like, have you ever thought of like doing, or would you do another one with somebody else? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was kind of still up in the air as like if I would go back to America or not.
Right.
And then once the America thing, I kind of shut the door on that. And I just called him and I was like, hey, I'm not going to do the America thing now. I'm going to focus on the podcast here. And so yeah, we like fully built a studio in his house, and like we've run the whole hog. So yeah, that's been today. And then just I don't know. Do you follow me my personal account as well, or just the Gypsy Tales?
Just the Gypsy Tales one, I think. Yeah, just the Gypsy Tales one. I found you on there just to give you a tag, but I don't think I followed it.
Righto. Yeah. Well, I'm just like crazy deep in this like jiu-jitsu rabbit hole right now.
Okay.
So that's like pretty much consuming my life. So it's like podcast jiu-jitsu.
Really? That's interesting. How come you got into jiu-jitsu? Where did that come from?
Well, I did martial arts my whole life as a kid.
Okay.
And then I honestly, man, like I think I just was craving some kind of like something to keep me in one place, because like I've spent the last 8 or 9 years traveling all over the world through filming, and I've never had a gym membership as an adult. Like I've never been able to go to classes. I've never been able to do any of that stuff that I feel like a lot of people that have a 9 to 5, they kind of can have that routine. They can have a membership. They can have some buddies they go to the gym with. Yeah. And I think I really just like craved that, while I was kind of, filming all over the world. And yeah, so like, dude, so random. One of my friends, his kid does it. And he's like, you should go to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, all right, sweet. And then like, I just went like all in there. And like, I've been doing competitions and all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
I had no idea any of that like universe even existed.
Right. I mean, I can totally feel you on that, because similar, I've done a lot of traveling, and my job too, I'm on the road a lot. So I look after the sales side of the distribution part of Hook It. So like, I never know what time I'm going to be home. I never know what time I'm leaving in the morning. It's like getting into a routine of going to a gym is almost like totally out of the equation. So yeah, I can feel you on that. And sometimes you want it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's parts of your life where you don't want any routine, but then there's other parts where you like crave it. It's weird.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, I mean, I'm definitely like into it now, but yeah, it's just that just being away for so long, and then it was like to finally commit to being like, no, I'm going to be in Australia now. Then I was like, okay, I want all the stuff that comes with that. I want like a regular gym, and I want like a coffee shop I go to, and I don't know, I just craved all that like normal adult stuff that. Because I've just been running around like a kid in a candy store for the last like 8 years filming. So
right.
Now I was like, I really want something. And the podcast has honestly been like that as well. It's like it's always in the studio. It's the people are coming to me as opposed to me going to them to film.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a little bit of that and kind of normalcy as well, which is cool.
Okay. So I want to talk to you obviously about your podcast. But first, I think one thing I always like doing with this thing is sort of like get some backstory on people. So obviously, in fact, I was cursing you out so much last night. I was like, Googled Jase Macalpine, not a lot comes up. And then as soon as you switch it to Jason, boom. And I was like, motherfucker. And I was just about to go to bed too. I'm like, motherfucker. So I was trying to like see what you'd worked on and all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like a new alter ego or?
Nah, I always just joke like that like only my mum calls me Jason when I'm in trouble. So it's like just everyone calls me Jay. So It's like, and then I think it was always my socials though. But yeah, I don't know. It's for no reason at all. It's just how it sort of worked out. Okay. But I guess I didn't really think of that. That's the first time I've heard that.
So give us some backstory, man. Like, you grew up in Australia?
Yeah, so I grew up in Cairns. So I guess that like instantly is where my mountain bike background come from, because obviously you guys are a mountain bike podcast.
Yeah.
So I probably have like more mountain bike connection than maybe you'd even think. So I grew up in Cairns. My quote unquote uncle is Glenn Jacobs, who you might have heard of.
I think I recognize the name.
World Trail. So Glenn. Yeah, so Glenn designed all of the World Cup trails in like the 90s for like the downhill. He's the dude that invented four cross. So he worked for the UCI for like ages. Okay. He's my dad's best friend, my brother's godfather. So to me, he's always been like Uncle Glenn. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of like born into the whole mountain bike thing. So that was like my first love. And I say to people now, like I don't have a downhill bike at the moment, but downhill is my 100% my first love. That was the first thing I was obsessed with. That was my first job, was so I could buy an Intense M1.
Right.
Yeah. So that was, I think it was Chris Kovarek's old bike too, if memory. So I'm pretty sure it went from Chris Kovarek to Adam Hunter to me.
Right.
So I bought it with like a ton of cracks in the swing arm and stuff. And
yeah, Kovarek's probably not easy on bikes, eh?
Nah, man, he's an animal. So, and he's still an animal to this day. But yeah, so I grew up there, grew up racing mountain bikes, and then my dad was just like never into it. My brother wanted to race motocross, and it was like we got some of the best downhill tracks in the world in Cairns. Like you got Coranda. I mean, I grew up riding the World Cup downhill track.
Right.
You got Waterblah. Like there's just so many amazing downhill tracks there. But for my dad, he was just not stoked to like drive his kid up the hill, not see him, and then just kind of do it. It was just like a raw deal for him.
Okay.
And we don't have like chairlifts and stuff where we're at, so it's pretty much just shuttles. Right. And at that time, like enduro bikes really weren't around in the capacity that they are now. So yeah, that kind of prompted me to switch into motocross. Which was like rad. I mean, I got like super, super obsessed with that and was racing, and we were doing like all the state titles and, all that kind of stuff. I admittedly wasn't as good as my little brother. My little brother got like a pro license and, I think he's still number 57 in Australia.
Right. Wow.
But what it did do was because Cairns is like super isolated, like we're way up north. We've got no major cities around us or anything like that. And it kind of like forces you, I think that's why the scene was so good for like downhill and motocross as well. because it's like we got this abundance of land and like really good land, a lot of farmland for tracks and stuff.
Yeah.
But you kind of creates like your own little ecosystem, and I think that out of that you can go like two ways. You can get sort of isolated and a little bit disheartened by it to where the pace drops off, not a lot of people get into it, or that little like ecosystem like feeds and feeds and feeds, and then you just end up with like rippers.
Yeah.
So I grew up like 3 doors down from Mick Hanna.
Oh right.
So I spent most of my life, like Tracy was one of my best friends. Like she was in my crew. We hung out every day after school kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like there was that little ecosystem of like Bryn Atkinson, Mick Hanna, Michael Ronning spent a lot of time up here, Sean McCarroll, a guy by the name of Cameron Palmer, who never kind of burst onto the world scene, but he was maybe the fastest dude in Cairns.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of like this crazy little scene up here. But yeah, so then when I switched over to motocross, it was sort of the same, really. Like we have, even right now, from Cairns, we have Wade Hunter, who won a bunch of Supercross races. Jackson Richardson's 2-time Supercross champ. Todd Waters is racing for HRC and Honda right now. Yeah. So that was like my little crew. So when I figured out that I wasn't good enough, to race, I was like, well, I want to do something, and I was good with like writing and photography and stuff. So I basically just started like freelancing for magazines as like an 18-year-old kid. Right. And one thing led to another. Bought a camera, and at that time I was working for one of the magazines here, and I had like a huge falling out with the owner. I was just not a guy I really enjoyed being around. Okay. And then as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old kid at this point that knew everything, I started a blog before blogs were blogs, and I was like, the internet is the new thing, and so yeah, I spent like the next 2 years telling everyone that Facebook was going to be big and that they should make videos.
Wow. You didn't invest in Facebook?
Yeah,
early,
so,
though.
and then I wish I did.
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, so then from that, like I actually, I started making videos, and I think like I definitely am not a person that thinks that there's a lot of luck involved in success. Mm-hmm. But I will say like there was definitely just luck that I kind of picked up a video camera, and from day one, like I was making edits that looked like the stuff that was on the internet coming out of like the US. And then I guess to like kind of fast forward, I don't want to drag on the story
cool,
too
it's
much.
Interesting. It's super interesting.
But yeah, so I basically in 2010 was like the real big kind of game changer, because Motocross of Nations was in the US that year at Colorado. And at this point, Verb Moto had been posting some of my content, and I had through Facebook, like funnily enough, like what we said before we started, like you kind of get those friends through the internet. Wes had become like this internet friend of mine. And he basically was like, hey, there's a bunch of Aussies coming over for the Motocross of Nations. I've got a really good team this year. Like, would you do some filming? And then I just got a ticket with like literally every dollar I had, and went to the US. And I think, man, like no joke, I probably had $200 in my account when I went to the US. Yeah, and I stayed there for 2 months.
Really?
And
you
just
live
hung
off
out
that?
with Wes.
Oh, really? You live off that $200, or are you just doing like little cash things here, there, and everywhere, or what?
Well, I just got lucky. Like I hung out with Wes, and I was just like, dude, I'll just film with you and kind of hang out. And man, we just got on. Like he's still one of my best friends to this day. And that was 2010, so like 8 years ago, and I still talk to him almost every day. And then from there, I kind of pitched an idea to the JDR team. The guy that owned JDR Motorsports. You remember the JDR team, the KTM team?
No, I don't think
so. That was in the US?
No.
Malcolm Stewart rode for him.
Oh, really? Not off the top of my head. No, I don't remember it. JDR, nah.
But yeah, so anyway,
probably would if I saw it. You know what I mean? My memory is terrible, dude. It's a shambles in here.
Nah, it makes sense. But yeah, so I got a gig with JDR, and then Jay, who was like super young, so he's like a year younger than me. he was running the team, and he just got the whole video thing. He got that how much it kind of like adds to the brand and the team, and then from there we just kind of went on a tear, dude. Like I just had an open, I guess like a open idea checkbook. Like I could go to them with anything when it come to filming and stuff. And then we made like the Dream Ride video with Malcolm and Josh Keisha in Australia. That got like 1 million views online really quickly. And that was, I guess, in a time when like 1 million views was like still a big deal.
Yeah.
Because now, I mean, you can post a helmet cam and it can get 1 million views like in 20 minutes. But yeah, so then I just ended up getting a visa, and I lived in the States for I think like 6 years, and I've kind of only just come home. But I got in really, really close with the guys at Red Bull Media House, and yeah, that was like kind of my main deal is I'd just fly around with Red Bull athletes to events all over the world, from like Alaska and toured the UK and Europe with like rock bands, and yeah, so it's like a really weird, wild journey, sort of all from that camera.
Right. Wow. I mean, so just to rewind a little bit then too. So you'd never trained in any of this stuff either, right?
No, never, man. Like I'm just gonna grab this drink I prepared earlier.
Is it a VB?
Yeah, no, it's actually a Kraken and dry.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
on the rum lately.
Yeah, bro.
When I do drink, it's not very often. But yeah, I literally maxed out an $8,000 credit card to buy my first camera.
Wow.
And I still have that. I still have the tripod that I bought. So I bought like a tripod and a camera for I think $8,000. No idea, dude. And it was before. Like now, I tell people, like, I still get a lot of kids hit me up on like Instagram or Facebook or whatever and be like, oh, what's your advice for filming and da 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 da. And I'm like, dude, everything's on YouTube. Like, type it. If you start typing me a question, if you type that into YouTube, you'll get a better answer than what I could give you.
That's interesting. You know what? Like, I always obviously like reach out to people and say, you know, who do you want to see on the podcast, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of the time, it's young kids who want, you know, photographers and filmmakers and stuff like that on. Another reason I wanted to get you on here, to be honest, because it's interesting how you've done it, because you're one of those guys, like, no real training in it, just pick up a camera and start ripping. In fact, similar story to one of my best friends actually is Joe Bowman, who does he's Steel City Media. Yeah. So Joe made all the This Is Petey episodes. You know, he films all the Santa Cruz stuff now. Similar, man. He just bought a camera one day and was like, right, let's see how this goes. And the next thing, he's flying around the world, and yeah.
Well, I call it passion-based learning.
Yeah,
I guess that's kind of like my it's kind of like my little term I use when I talk to people, and I think that there's education to be found in everything, and it's kind of like the way that I try and approach everything that I do. Like, so let's say, for instance, like for me, man, I hated school. Like, I got kicked out of a bunch of schools. Like, I was a really bad kid when it came to school, and but I was smart. Like, I was intelligent, and it just that system didn't work for me. And then it's like, you give me a thing of like, so motocross, like that's all I was into, or downhill. Like, I mean, I remember like one day there was like a English or sports assignment or something that we had to do, where it was like you had to explain your favorite sport. And like, man, I bought in, like, my uncle had an orange 222 at this point. And so I took, because I think my bike was like broken. So I took in this orange, and then I showed like a video of mud cows.
Wow.
And like Brent. So yeah, Glenn did mud cows. Have you seen mud cows?
Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah.
So yeah, Glenn is the guy that made mud cows.
Right. Wow. That's
cool. Yeah. So I guess
cool.
that's like, I guess maybe that's a little bit of my film inspiration as well, is like, I kind of wanted to be like him in that regard.
And you've had him on your podcast too, right? So if people want to check that out.
Yep. So just a couple episodes.
Cool.
A couple episodes ago. But yeah, so it was like, I took in this downhill bike, and I like went through, I showed like a section of mud cows, and then I just kind of like went in deep, and I ended up getting like an A+ for this assignment. But everything else I'd done was like, I was failing. And then the teacher's like, man, where did that come from? And I was like, oh, I was just into it. So I think that's why you see so many dudes like, like Clay Porter and your mate from Steel City Media. It's like, I think that we live and breathe this kind of stuff so much that it's like, it's so easy to spend the hours and hours on YouTube and the, miles hiking up hills and obsessing over every shot. Like, I think that, I actually just had a meeting with, I met up with a listener of the podcast actually.
Wow.
He's doing film stuff, and because I need some film stuff done with Gypsy Tales, and like it's kind of getting a bit too much for me, so I sort of wanted to meet up with him and kind of suss him out a bit, I guess. But he just did the film school thing, and he's like, dude, like, I don't even want to ask you what you think about film school. And I was like, yeah, bro, sorry, but like I don't think you need it. In the same way that you need to go to university to be a heart surgeon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But when it comes to, essentially what we're making is art. Art's subjective, and I think that all you need to have to be a great artist is for people to appreciate the, I guess, like, the culmination of your vision, which is, I guess, what people call like, when you have an eye for photography.
Yeah.
I think that what that means is that people resonate with what you see through your lens.
Yeah, makes total sense.
And I think that that's something that, I think that's something that you 100% have to get through education.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? How like, for certain stuff you do have to go to university, and I mean, it's really hard to get like any sort of other job other than a passion job. You know what I mean? But
I think like there's no subjectivity in fixing a broken femur. Like, that's not up for somebody's interpretation. Like, there's a right way to do that. Like, you need to learn that shit.
Yeah, you can't. You can't YouTube that one, can you?
Like, nah, dude. I mean, you probably honestly could, but
don't try this at home.
Yeah, don't nobody do that. But I mean, that's not going to kind of land you a job. But I think that, it's just that film photography world. Like, I mean, I think there's definitely like benefits to it, but at the same time, like if you're a kid and you're just ready to hustle, and I think the biggest thing in business and what got, maybe not what like got me work, but I think I place so much importance on relationships as opposed to just like how good I was, because there's always someone better than you at everything you do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that
go on, man. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like you're good. If you focus on relationships and kind of building relationships with people at like brands or whatever, and people know they can trust you, they appreciate the time that you are forced to spend. Like, I'm sure your mate with Petey, like Petey obviously just enjoys being around him because they have to spend so much time together to make those shows.
Exactly.
That it's sort of the relationship is maybe the most important thing when it comes to the production of that show.
No, I totally agree, and I think it's a great metaphor for life, and it's something I've always really thought about. People buy off people. With the industry we're in, distribution. People deal with you because they like dealing with you. It's not necessarily sometimes the product. It's just like the relationship you've got. The support you can give them, and it's the same. Yeah, it's the same with everything, right? Like, I learned many years ago, man. Like, never burn bridges because you never know when you're going to need these people. And it's crazy how as you go on through life, it just becomes more and more important to just have good relationships with people.
Yeah, and I think that, like, especially with work, man, like, if you're already in a job that you're not, like, that stoked on, you add, like, a shit person into that mix, and it's just, like,
it's show.
Just a nightmare. It's just the worst case scenario. So, I mean, that's kind of, like, the one thing that I always, I guess, would stress to people as well. Is like, dude, just be a good person, build good relationships, like, I did a shoot in Alaska for Red Bull, and I was friends with both of the producers, and it's like, they know going into that weekend that it's going to be 4 days. It's going to be like negative 30 degrees. We're going to be sleeping in an RV. So I'm like sleeping in an RV with the two producers. It's like they're just, I don't care how good you are. Like if you're a dickhead, no producer at Red Bull is going to want to spend 4 days in a friggin' RV in negative 30 degrees with you. Like, it's just that. You could be the best photographer ever. No one's signing up for that shit.
That's very true. Very, very true. I'm interested to how have you seen like that industry, like the filming industry, change since you got into it? Obviously, things like GoPros, I feel, have made a lot of people filmers or filmmakers all of a sudden. But do you think it's changed like drastically or?
Sorry, dude. I'm just going to move. I think I might need to get a little bit closer to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no sweat.
Sorry, brother.
It's all right.
Creating more edit work for you.
Dude, there is no way that I'm editing this out.
What's that?
I ain't editing this out. No way. No way.
Hopefully
this
should be a little bit better. Yeah, sorry, man. What was your question?
I was just saying that how much have you seen like that industry, like the filmmaking industry, change since you got into it?
Dude, I've like, you know what, man? Like, honestly, recently is where I've had like a really big kind of, I guess, like a change in the industry, or like how I view the industry and what's kind of like working and I guess like getting views these days. Because like when I first started, and I mean now like my style, I mean if you've watched like the Dream Ride videos and stuff like that, I like to just have these like flawless, perfect focus pulls, like the color, all the white balance is just like every shot is matched. The sound design's brilliant. And it's like, because for me, especially with like Red Bull, they would like push for that level of perfection because that's kind of what they were known for. But like, what's the biggest things on YouTube right now? Dog shit vlogs.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say to you. It's crazy.
Like no one cares now. But like, I remember when I first started that people, and man, like, dude, the thing that I found with, so I shot like a commercial for the US Army, and they were just like, they were honestly blown away with like the level of detail and I guess like the cinematic way things were shot, but with like a really small crew. And we rocked up to this shoot and they were like, "Oh, where's everybody else?" And I was like, "Nah, this is it, man. This is our crew." And they're like, "Oh, did you have this many people on those videos, the reference videos that they like came to us for?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, we actually had less people." And I didn't know this at the time, but the person that directed the shoot before us was Zack Snyder that did 300 and like Superman.
Really?
And,
oh shit.
And I was like, A, I did not charge enough, and B, they like I can't even imagine what they rocked up with in terms of like cinema trucks and crew and catering and all that crap that comes with like those kind of productions. But yeah, so like I guess what I've seen change is just it kind of went from this like expecting this crazy quality to just like an Instagram story is good enough now. Yeah. And it's like people filming stuff with their phones or these like vlogs and like wind noise and all this stuff that I spent like years just being like, like I can't have any of this in my films is now like what people want. And I think that what's changed is like our access to videos in terms of like now with IGTV is a perfect example. Like we're gone, 16:9 is gone. Now it's 9:16.
Yeah.
It's like they've Instagram's literally like flipped the game. And now it's like, am I going to have to start shooting my camera sideways or am I going to just crop the images I get? Like it's, like it honestly really, really has changed. And we're going to, with Gypsy Tales, I'm going to start doing some like vlog stuff.
Right.
Because it's just like, that's what everyone wants to see now is kind of that kind of candid content that's just real quick.
Yeah.
Quick,
behind the scenes sort of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that blew me away. Like I just thought, because you look at Clay Porter, man, like his images are incredible. And the mountain bike scene has been so far ahead of the game in films for so long.
Do you think? Right. That's interesting.
Oh, I think for sure, man.
Yeah.
I think that the mountain biking and snowboarding are the two industries that I think are really advanced when it comes to filmmaking.
Right.
And I think that I was always trying to play catch up in like the moto thing. But I mean, I've got my own theories on I think why the motocross stuff just never went as big as what the mountain biking or snowboarding or surfing stuff kind of did.
Right. Why? Just I'm curious why you think that though.
Well, so we did Dream Ride, which was we flew Malcolm Stewart and Josh Casey to Cairns. We built like the craziest track, like in the jungle. We filmed them flying over the Great Barrier Reef. Like it was epic, right?
Right.
And it was such a nightmare to do that. And I think that logistically, like, so what I always thought about, right, is like, why is surfing and mountain biking and snowboarding so cool? Is that you can load those three things onto a plane.
That's fair.
And you can go.
That's
so
fair.
like for me, like my destination for mountain biking is Derby. So I go to Blue Derby every single chance I get.
Okay.
But it's not a nightmare, dude. Like I just load my bike up and I get on a plane and then I'm there and then I load my bike up and I go home. And I mean, we've done a lot of mountain bike filming where we've done that. And, you know, you fly to a destination, you get your bikes out, you get your camera gear out and you film. But with the motocross, like, so we did Dream Ride 1, which was easier because the team was based in Australia. So it was like a road trip. They'd have to drive the semi up there and stuff. Fully attainable. But then when we did Dream Ride 2, we put bikes on a ship and sent them from Long Beach port to Honolulu. And then I had to be at Honolulu. The bikes had to clear customs. Then I had to like rent a U-Haul. Then I had mechanics there. And we had like, it was just, dude, it was a nightmare. And it was like, it cost so much money. Like it was one of the gnarliest things I've ever done. And it's like, I think that is why like motocross films just never progress. Like how many times can I go to James Stewart's house and film? Like his track, you know how he changes his tracks?
Yeah.
He just makes them run backwards.
Right.
And forwards. So like one year I film a Red Bull video of him riding clockwise.
Yeah.
And then the next year I film a video of him riding counterclockwise. It's like, that's the like lengths that these people or like tracks change. And I just think it becomes very repetitive. It becomes very mundane. And then I think that's why the progression has gone away from the cinematic stuff, because it's almost like we reached that.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, let's just go to like rider content. Let's make the riders make their own Instagram stories and post their shit on social. And it's like 3 or 4 turns raw linked up because we've seen all the cinematic stuff. Like how many times can we do that?
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. And I agree. I mean, we are seeing those guys now making their own like vlogs. Like AC, we were talking the other day about Adam.
Yeah.
You know, AC's vlogs, like, it's pretty cool, to be fair. I really like it. Like I watched the behind the scenes from Redwood one the other day, and Christian Craig, you know, he's doing his own thing. So everyone's sort of like, switching over to doing that, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm kind of torn, if I'm honest with you. Like, it's cool to see all the behind the scenes stuff, but it's like, I don't know, like, when does it stop for those guys? You know, Adam's obviously filming most of his life now. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what point do you go, right, enough's enough? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think it'll just be secular. Like, I think that this is now a new thing, and everyone kind of got sick of the high production value stuff. And now they're like, give me this, and then they'll get sick of that, and then they'll be like, oh, let's go for these high production things again. Yeah. Like, I think it's just a cycle. But I think that especially in motocross, it's just so much more limited because, you know, like Art of Flight, you get Travis that goes to like Russia or China, and it's more about the travel than it is about the snowboarding. Like, they will still put a scene in Art of Flight where they like got shitty conditions, but like it was a nightmare with like customs. Like, there's a story to that.
Yeah, it's more the lifestyle of what they're doing than
exactly. Yeah. And I think that people these days, like, because I've always wondered, like, why do we make films? Like, why do we bother? And it's like, to me, there has to be like an aspirational living element of like, what's the dream thing that we would do as casual motocross or mountain bikers if we were good, and if we were sponsored, and if we well, what we would do is go on those trips. Like we would do that.
Yeah.
So there's like always this element of like wanderlust when it comes to films, and I think that's why they've played such a big part in like action sports in particular. And I think that like a dude like James Stewart is so unrelatable in terms of like his ability on a dirt bike. Like he's a freak of nature.
True. Yeah.
And it's like if like you can't see that, like the best dude at your local track, like 4% of what James Stewart can do.
That's true.
So I think that's why these like films and stuff have been such a big role in action sports. Because like, especially I think about like rugby, right? Like a tackle's a tackle, a pass is a pass. Like they might be bigger dudes, they might be a little bit faster dudes, but in the grand scheme of what they're doing, it looks pretty similar. So that's why I don't think you see like those kind of lifestyle films and things in those kind of sports, because I think it is quite relatable.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I think that's why action sports has always just had such a huge like filmmaking kind of presence as like a real, I guess, like a backbone of the industry, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's almost it comes with that side of the sports, right? Like it's all about the filmmaking, and obviously as social media and stuff's evolved, it's even more of a thing now. Like it's all about getting it for the gram, which again, I'm torn. Like I'm in that sort of like age that I grew up without the internet. Really, I got to like 20 or something, and you could use it to search for shit, but like
LimeWire and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like LimeWire, all that sort of stuff, and like
MySpace top 8.
Yeah. So I'm like in that age group where we've had it, we've not had it, and it's really nice not to have it. Whereas now you kind of need it, and I'm so torn on the whole thing, man. Like I don't really necessarily like it, if I'm honest with you. I like to get away from it as much as possible. Whereas I think being an athlete now, you need to be constantly doing that stuff to get any sort of recognition and sponsorship and stuff like that.
Oh man, there's a real the economy of social media is real.
Yeah.
And I mean, even for me, man, like it's definitely been like one of the things that I've had to kind of like get over in terms of the podcast is like posting me, like my whole Instagram feed is like just me talking, and it just like creeps me out. And like, I mean, I wonder if you get this when you like listen to your podcast back, if you like fast forward all the shit you say when you're like doing editing and stuff, because like I just don't want to hear it. So it's like it is weird, man. But like, could I do the podcast without social media? 100% no. Like it'd be terrible. Like people just wouldn't come across it. Like I'm not going to leave it up to people to search Gypsy on like iTunes.
Totally.
But you know what I mean? It's not.
Totally. I 100%. And like, if you look up any sort of like iTunes optimization or anything like that, it's pretty much non-existent. You put it out there, and then you use all of your other outlets, like you say, social media and blogs, and getting shares off people to drive people to it. I mean, if it wasn't for social media, it would be pretty much impossible. You'd have to be like word of mouth. You'd have to be like the guy in the street with the bell, ding ding. You'd have to be shouting about it.
Yeah, it's so true. So it's like, it's such a double-edged sword, because it's like, here I want people to like listen to what I've like, not necessarily what I want to say, but it's like I'm trying to bring people in to like listen to these cool people that I know they like, and give them something. But there's definitely like a narcissistic element to it, and it's like I've said this before, I can't remember maybe it wasn't even on a podcast, maybe it was just talking to one of my mates about it, but I said, like, is it enough to just know that it's kind of crazy? Like, is social media really bad when you don't know that it is bad? Like, is knowing it's dog shit enough to save you? Or if I know that it's bad and still use it, is that even worse than just being completely ignorant to it? So it's like, I'm so like, I don't know, there's like this philosophical thing going on in my head as to like what is really going on here in this whole thing that we're engaged in.
Yeah, it is a little crazy, that's for sure. And I think we've had probably the same sort of experiences as this thing's growing. I mean, we're like 2 and a bit years old now.
With the podcast?
Yeah. and it still freaks me the hell out. Like, it's weird, you know. Nothing ever really seems to tie together. Like, you look at the download figures, and that doesn't tie with the social media following, and like, it's just weird. Like, so I'm just rolling with it these days. I thought of when it first started, I was super like, you know, constantly chasing after like the biggest names and all that sort of stuff, and I kind of, you know, it's podcasts like yours where you think, right, it's not always about someone seeing it on the feed and going, oh, I know who that is. It's like everyone's got a cool story. So, and that's one of the major things that I noticed about yours. Obviously, a listener turned me onto it, and I'm like, oh, I've not heard of most of these people, but fuck, there's Travis Pastrana. Like, it must be really good for the most part, and I'll trust that you will deliver cool guests. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of, you know, I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan, and 90% of the time I ain't got a clue who it is when you see it on your feed, and it's like, no, I'm going to listen to it anyway, you know, because it's probably going to be really good. So, yeah, it's weird because you're always chasing. Obviously, the bigger and better guests do help because they'll drive traffic. I mean, the biggest episode I've had was the Danny Macaskill one.
Yeah.
Which was insane, man. Like, yeah, and that sort of, again, it gives you an idea of to what sort of power someone like that has got. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, it's insane. As soon as he started sharing the episode, like, the thing just blew up, man. Like, it was in the iTunes top 100 for a little while, which is astronomical, you know? Like,
that's sick.
And that's, you know, that's when you look at social media and you're like, no, you kind of need to have it. Maybe not at that level, but yeah, it's so influential, and it can literally make or break something too. Like, Danny could make or break like something. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he like roasted something, it'd be pretty much done.
Dude. Or like, I don't know though, like, because I guess you're going back to that, like, is any press good press sort of thing. But I messed up with the Travis podcast because we got smashed, dude. Like, we both drank like a 6-pack of beers, and like then we went out after. Like, it was a shit show. But it was like, it's just because he is a good friend, and he's a guy that I've known for like a long time. And then like the dudes at Nitro were like, yeah, man, we can't share any of that. Really? And I was like, what? And he's like, well, you were drinking, you were swearing, you were carrying on.
Dude, that's perfect.
And then, I know. And like, but yeah. So that I was like, I didn't. So I guess like I got the views of like the people that may have searched Travis Pastrana, but like I guess like the funny running joke of the podcast is Sam Moore was on after Travis,
right?
And his episode got more downloads, and like, which was still like they both just like did like a lot of downloads, but it was like Sam Moore popularity and then Travis Pastrana. So I guess it's been like, and then Sam knows Travis well as well. But yeah, I was kind of like, but at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, the podcast is still growing. Like, I mean, I think that the Travis podcast still gets like maybe nearly 10,000 a month.
Wow.
Like every month, like as it kind of goes on anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like people are still hearing it, and it's like, I'm so glad. Like, my goal going into that was to like give people the non-cartoon character version of Travis, which I think like he really slipped into just like normal human after.
Oh, for sure. Dude, it was rad. Like, such a good podcast. Obviously, I was always going to be a big fan of that, you know, because I'm such a Travis fan, you know. Again, I'm that age group that grew up watching the guy race, you know, moto, and then,
for sure,
you know, I was so into it. So I was just stoked that you'd done it, really. But yeah, I think it's that's for me. That's what podcasting is, though. It's about getting people sort of out, not out of their comfort zone, but like, no, it's more in the comfort zone, if anything, and just
that's what
and
it
just
would be,
riffing. You know, like, it's not about having an agenda or anything like that. And that's, you know, that's the sort of shit I like listening to, man. It's just people chatting, and there might be some knowledge bombs in there, there might not. I don't know. But
yeah, well, I think like the thing too, man, that I think, and man, I've put a lot of time into kind of like thinking about what it is, what we're doing when we're sort of talking on these. But it's like people will hear very different messages dependent on where they are in their life. So like, I mean, I've had people that have messaged me like random things that after a podcast and said like, dude, I needed to hear this. This has changed my life, blah, blah, blah. And then like, I'll be in the car and someone will like will just that part will go over or whatever, and like people just breeze over it, like it just goes totally over their head. So on the one hand, it's like it compels one guy to message me and say that it changed his life, and then on the other hand, how many people listened to that bit and it was just gone. So I think that that's kind of like, I don't know, one of the things is like people will take messages differently at different times of their life. So it's I think it's just like it's more about just like constantly like putting out content you trust and believe in, and yeah, you're gonna get those people where like it is a knowledge bomb to them, and then you're gonna get people where it really doesn't even mean anything. It's like, I mean, I wanted to ask you if you like, do you ever try and like think about what would be on trend, or like how would you say it? It's like, I guess, playing to the crowd in terms of what you think people would want to hear, or do you just kind of do it super selfishly?
I just do it kind of super selfishly. There's been a few things which have tied in with like movie releases, for example, which has been really cool. So that's sort of stuff which is on trend at that time. Can you hear chickens in the background, or is it just me?
Yeah.
I've got chickens in the garden, dude. They're so goddamn loud sometimes. So like Gamble film, for example, which obviously is Clay's film. That came out.
Was that the Scott one?
Yeah. It's, not Gamble. Not Gamble. Death Grip. My bad. So Death Grip
with Farraclough.
Yeah, exactly. So the episode I did with those guys came out right after the film. So that was sort of like on trend. That was a bit of like an accompanying sort of like podcast. I had Clay on there and some of the other filmmakers, Ollie Wilkins, Brendan. So that was really cool. Like that came out at that sort of time. And I feel like that's probably the direction podcasting is maybe going, like as more of sometimes, not all the time, but more of like a support to something else, like an audio audio book, like an audio representation of what's going on the big screen or on as a film. So did the same thing with Gamble as well, actually. So that obviously Joe's one of my best friends. So we released that just before Gamble came out. So, drum up a little bit of Stoke and stuff like that. And again, that worked brilliantly. So many people sent messages to both of us saying, I've just pre-ordered the film because I listened to the podcast. Like, I'm stoked for it. So I feel that is maybe the way it's going, being able to use, at the end of the day, man, like if you're putting something, let's say 10,000 downloads into somebody's ears, that has got a monetary value to it as well. Like, and that's a big thing, and that's something that I've been really like not cautious of, but like conscious of is you're making all this free content. There's kind of got to be not money, but there has got to be some sort of like end goal to the whole thing, if that makes sense. Like, it's for a brand, it's huge. Like, if you can deliver a message into, let's say for argument's sake, 10,000 people's ears, that's huge, man. Like, that is massive. And the thing is, and what you've probably noticed with your podcast is because they're not time centric, right? So exactly. Someone will join it, like me, for example. I found your podcast. I'll go all the way back to number 1 and work my way back through it. So it's constantly evolving. And maybe with video, would you say that it almost gets like a hit and then it'll just taper off as it falls down listings and stuff like that?
Well, like fair, the video pod?
No, like a video, like an edit, like a movie or whatever.
Oh, yeah. It's hard. Like, I'm sure people aren't going back and watching the, like old films like they would have done.
For example.
Like, Dream Ride gets like 1 million views, then it might get like 20, 30,000 a year after that.
Yeah.
But I think the thing with the podcasting I've found is that, and I mean, even so, like, I really don't listen to many. Like, I listen to a lot of Joe's stuff, just purely, again, because I'm like into fighting and MMA, and like I did martial arts my whole life. So I've always been into that for those reasons as well. It's kind of like, the same with what you're saying with kind of everyone he has on there. But you'll know, like, you'll get in a car with somebody else that listens to his stuff, and then you just start talking about, shit you've heard, and it's like this. It's like Fight Club, you know what I mean? It's like you get those people that like know about Fight Club.
Totally.
So I think that's where the Gypsy Tales stuff, or your podcast, or Joe's stuff, where it's like people can go back, yes, but they also feel like a part of the community, and it's like they're up to date. And I mean, you might notice the same thing where you've got like the same crew like sends messages every episode, and like so it sort of does have that. Like Gypsy Tales has, that crew of people that like every single time an episode drops, they're posting it on their story, and it's like, so I think that's what's really cool is like people. It does become like a little bit of a community more than just like you're putting out like a random video. Like I think people can feel more a part of a regular podcast than like a one-off kind of film or something.
Yeah, totally. That's for me been the biggest takeaway of this whole journey is like I've done a bunch of events and stuff like that, and always mentioned at the start of the podcast, like, right, I'm going to, I don't know, Fort William World Cup. I'll be here, like, come say hello. And like, dude, it's crazy. Like, so many people have come over and I've met some amazing people just from doing this podcast. Like, I really have, like, genuinely now are like good friends, not only like guests, but listeners too. Like, and that's like really nice, and I'm really mindful as well of creating like a really engaged listener base. Like I want people to submit questions and stuff like that, and that's really fun. Like it's nice, I'll always reply back to every message that ever gets sent. You know what I mean? Like take time out to reply to people, and don't get me wrong, it's not a huge following on social media, but it's engaged though, if that makes sense. It's not like there's 30,000 followers, but you never hear from anybody. It's like, all right, there might only be 2,500, but you hear from 500 of them every month.
Yeah. Oh, dude, totally. And then I think that's where, especially like on the advertising side of things, is like you can tell people like our average listen time on per device on iTunes for Gypsy Tales is 2 hours 58 minutes.
Wow.
So it's like these people like want to listen, like they're keen, they're excited to listen, and it's like I think then that's why people are like becoming way more receptive. So like I did the podcast with Adam Greentree, and he was saying that Yeti like only wants to do podcast advertising.
Really?
Because it's like they know, like I'm not sure if I was supposed to say that, but but yeah, like they know. I don't think it matters.
No.
But yeah, it's like they realize that like when you're going to listen to these people, like that people get invested in what you say, and then there's like a certain trust that gets formed, and like you'd see it as well, like through your iTunes stats. It's like thousands and thousands of hours that people listen, and like that's kind of is a bit of a trip, but there's got to be like a level of trust and respect there that obviously all these people are like taking time out of their days, or I guess like you're providing them with an escape from like super mundane shit that they might have to do every day.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's like the thing, man, people always post like, oh, I'm making this drive way better, or like, oh, stuck in traffic again. So it's like, and dude, there's a bunch of farmers actually. There's like some really, really cool like Aussie farmers that listen to the podcast, and they always post like they're in their tractor and like this huge just plowing fields, and then like they've got the podcast going on in there.
That's right.
In their tractor. But I think people like appreciate that, because you're right, like it's free content. We're putting it out there. It's like probably costs more than
for sure.
is sane to do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that there is like a special relationship that people have with their favorite podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly the reason I sort of got into the whole thing was my previous company I had. I used to have a business based in Poland, and I live in England. So it's quite a long drive to get to Poland. And most of our stuff, we used to do camper vans, and we used to sell them in Sweden and Norway. So I used to have this epic driving triangle of, sometimes 30 plus hours of just driving. And it's like, what do you do? Like, and someone said this to me a while back, right? And it's super cool. It's like, you can use your time mindlessly or mindfully. So you got all that time, like 30 hours, let's say. You can learn a lot of shit in 30 hours. Like you probably come away with a degree in a year if you really wanted to.
100%.
So why not use that time to learn some stuff? So I stumbled upon like audiobooks first, and that then led me into podcasts, and yeah, man, like I got roasted for this a while ago, but listening to a podcast, like it changed my life. It actually did change my life, because I was in a business that I hated, and having this little prep talk or pep talk, whatever you call it, from Rogan and another guest made me just sit there and think, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I need to get out. Like, this is it. I'm done. So yeah, it was that. Like, so I've got a lot to thank for podcasts. And then obviously, like, started the company. I'm like, right, you know, we kind of need to do something for marketing. So why not start a mountain bike podcast or a podcast? So yeah, I'm sort of slowly but surely trying to, like, not get away from just mountain biking, but, like, I like having random people on here. Like, I want to talk to people that, you know, again, like you said before, like, selfishly, I want to talk to these people. Like you, like, I stumbled upon your podcast. I'm like, I want to chat to you, dude. Like, I just want to sit and chat to you, just see what's going on.
Yeah, dude, you're so, like, man, you're so right, because, like, the thing, and I mean, I saw this a lot. Like, I used to do a lot of filming with, like, bands and stuff, and I'd see these people in these bands, and they're, like, just fucking licking their finger and putting it up to the wind and being like, what's cool right now? And then they're like, let's go make this sound. And I'm just sitting there filming them. I'm just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, like the term I always use is, like, you need to be a connoisseur of cool. Like, Kelly Slater was not like, fuck, man, what should I do with my hair? Like, he's going, you know what? I'm going bald. And it's like owning that. Like, he just created that look. And it's like, people that are genuinely, like, if you like, what is cool, what is fucking something that is worth watching, like fashion, for example. Like, you look at all the crazy, like, runway models and shit, and you're just like, or like music, like musicians, artists of the time, like, you're like, what the fuck is he wearing? But then it's like, that creates cool. And I think that, you know, like, if you've been doing this for 2 years, there's obviously enough people listening. There's people that are genuinely, like, invested in, you know, or I guess trust your measure of, like, who's a cool guest, who's a cool person, who's worth talking to. Yeah. So it's like, you've just really got to go with that. And if it's, I think that, again, it's like what we're sort of talking about, like, passion-based learning. It's like, this is a passionate thing. So it's like, it's so easy to be engaged when you're passionate about what you're doing with. So it's like, if you've got a reason to talk to someone, like, honestly, man, I've had people, like, approach me and send messages of, like, oh, you should get this person on the podcast. You should get. I'm like, man, I just don't, like, you don't want to sound like a dick, but it's like, I'm not interested in them. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, like, is that a dick move? But it's like, all the people that I've got on, and I think that's why the podcast comes out good, is because, and I guess that lends itself to the medium, because it's like, you used to hear, what's his name? Jay Leno. So Jay Leno, like, was doing the Tonight Show forever. Yeah. He seriously hated, like, 80% of the guests,
that's
right?
True. Yeah.
So it's like, and it looks contrived.
It does.
Like,
totally.
it looks like he's struggling. So it's like, if you're not selfish about who is on your podcast, then you're just putting out that Jay Leno product. And now look what happens. Jay Leno's got more money than Jesus, retires from the Tonight Show, and makes a show about cars.
Yeah, because that's what he wants to do, right? Yeah.
That's all he cares about. And he can be selfish. Yeah. And he can pick the people that he wants to come on. So it's like, I think that, there's so much power in, like, that. So, I mean, for you, it's like, I guess, maybe don't care so much about if it's a mountain bike guest or not, but just if it's someone you're interested in, there's a reason you're interested in them, and you kind of just got to go with that.
I love how, as well, it's, and I don't know if you've had this, but it's been a huge, like, personal learning curve as well. Like, just learning. I mean, I love the art of conversation, right? Like, being able to sit and hold a conversation with no real structure, no plan. It's like, it's nice, like, and I like that I've hopefully not taught myself to do that. I was, it's all right at before, my job's.
I think it's like
sales.
Yeah, I think it's a learned thing, though.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I've learned so much. I mean, I remember. I've talked about this before, so I'm not calling this guy out, but I had Lucas Shaw on the podcast, and Luke obviously just signed for the Santa Cruz Syndicate. Been totally honest, like, I didn't. Ripper. Oh yeah, full ripper. Like, I didn't really know much about Luca though, so I made a bunch of notes, and in like 10 minutes we burnt through all these notes, and I'm like, fuck, like, now what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, that was a huge learning curve.
Have you had Bruni on?
Yeah, Loic's been on. Loic's been on twice. Yeah, Loic's been on twice.
Okay.
Yeah, Loic was really good, actually. It was like the early days, man. It was probably in the first year that Loic did the first one. And then I met him at Crankworks. I went and did the Crankworks stuff a couple of weeks ago and saw him there. But yeah, Loic's cool, man. Loic's sick. I mean, there's
He's
always going to be a bit of a language barrier. No, it's not a huge barrier, but it's, you know, it's always going to be there a little bit. But yeah, look, it's rad.
Yeah, he's I've like filmed with him, and he's one of those guys that I just got on like instantly with. So, I mean, I couldn't even remember, like maybe it was like 4 years ago. I think he was still on Lapierre. Okay. He was on Lapierre, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he was still on Lapierre when we filmed, but yeah, we've still kind of kept in touch. I was going to say he's a super cool dude. Yeah.
One thing you've done there, which I really like, is all your stuff's done in person.
Yeah, man. We were talking about that on the thing. Like, I know, like, so just like guest lists of people I could get on the phone and chat straight up is like Ken Roxon, Johnny Knoxville, Adam Cincerillo, like, you know, Benji Madden. Like, there's a ton of people that, like, big names and big followings that would just blow the shit out of the water. And I'm like, fuck, I don't think I want to do it.
Really? I like that, though. I respect that. I think, you know, again, given a blank canvas to start this thing again, I probably would aim more towards that. But, you know, at the end of the day, I've always got to be really cautious and mindful of the fact that it's a side project still. Like, you know, the actual running of the core business always takes over, which is why every now and again there'll be a bit of a break in episodes and stuff, because, like, we've got so much shit going on at the actual business at Hook It.
Yeah.
But saying that, it's weird because the podcast has kind of taken on a life of its own. So it's like, how much do you invest time-wise into something and how much do you not? And yeah, but given my time again, I think I'd do way more like just sit in person sort of stuff. But
it's a whole, like, it definitely has its challenges though. In terms of, like, obviously setting up the studio has been like super hard. I'm actually in the process of trying to, like, I'm just going to go full Joe Rogan copy and buy like a warehouse. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, dude.
And
you're killing it. Yeah. Holy shit.
So, well, I mean, like, I've been traveling for like years, so I don't have a house. Like, I'm literally living at my parents' house right now.
Okay.
Just because I've got back from the States. So, I mean, I need a house anyway, but what the goal is we're going to get a warehouse down in the Gold Coast, like really close to the airport. So once we get to the stage where I'm like flying people in, we've got like a proper studio. The one that the Corey Parker podcast, it's called Gypsy and the Fox, for anyone that wants to look at that. It's just like topical sports stuff. But he had like a 5 meter by 4 meter room in his house that was just like nothing. And it's like, he's got like a separate gym, garage, and this room that he has at his house. So, like, we just fully took over this room, man, and I made like soundproofing and like we got like the four boom mics. We got like a big 50-inch TV on the wall. Like, yeah, it's super cool, and it's like I'll be doing Gypsy Tales out of there until I get a warehouse. But it's like spoiled me, man. I'm like, holy shit, like, because through filming. Before I left the States, I actually put together like a crazy broadcast setup. So I got like a case that's got like a 8-camera switcher, all the monitors, all the recorders, like everything. So eventually Gypsy Tales will be live on YouTube or like in studio, multi-camera switching, like the whole TV shit up. Yeah, so I'm just going to go full Rogan.
You've gone full in then. Like, so just to rewind, like really quick, what made you start this podcast? Because I've not actually asked you that yet.
Oh man, it's like the most random thing. So we did the Dungy homegrown video. Like, did you see the one where he's riding in the cornfields?
Yeah. Is that you?
And so, yeah.
All right.
So so me and Wes Williams. So, and like we had a ton of other people there with us, but so that was fucking crazy. But so a guy by the name of Jeremy, he's pretty high up dude at Red Bull. He's one of my best friends. And we'd travel together. And again, it's like, I guess that thing of like, people are going to employ people they want to be around. Yeah. So me and Jeremy are just like thick as thieves. And we'd travel together. We'd always take our golf clubs. We'd be like playing golf everywhere we went. And but we'd always listen to like Rogan stuff in the car. Or we would like listen to an episode on the plane next to each other and then like talk about it in the car. And then he said for years, he's like, dude, with all your stories and all the stuff you've done, like, you need to start a podcast. And I was like, man, there's no way. Like, I've been behind the camera. Like, it's just, I'm not about that life. And so it was like, I don't know, man. It was maybe like 2.5 years ago. well, I think we were gonna. He's like, the joke was I was gonna call my podcast "Mum Don't Listen,"
Okay.
and but it was all like stories I'd never tell.
Yeah,
Like it was,
yeah.
just kind of playing up as a single dude in America. But then, so he's like, "Oh man, you got to have a podcast." And then like 2 years goes by, and he's still going like, "You got to get a podcast. You got to get a podcast." And I mean, you got to understand, like living in LA, what's the one thing you hear whenever you meet any dipshit anywhere is like, "Well, what's up, man? I just started a podcast." So I'm like,
Oh really?
I'm like,
Is it that big? Shit.
Oh, dude! Like I was at I was in Sydney just the other day, and we got like went to the gym with my friend, and his trainer was there, and his trainer's wife is like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I got a podcast," and she's like, "Oh, everyone has a podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, well, not everyone's is like top 50 on iTunes, but then so." Yeah, so anyway, I was just like, I just wasn't into it, and at that time too, I was like trying to go so hard with the filming, and basically we get to Homegrown, and Jeremy is like, "Hey, dude, we're gonna get you to do a podcast with Dunge," and I was like, "Oh, yeah," and he's like, "Please, if you don't like it, we don't post it. Like, it's all good. I just really want you to do it."
And
so he was the
what
guy.
outlet would that go on then? Was that to go on your own thing?
No, so it's on Red Bull.
Okay.
Red Bull's YouTube. But it kind of got weird with Red Bull because it wasn't an action clip.
Right.
So they only posted it as an unlisted video on YouTube.
Okay.
But just because it wasn't actually like it got flown up the flagpole or whatever, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll post it as unlisted." Then Moto specific outlets can post it, and it'll be live and everything, but it's not going to live on our YouTube.
Okay.
But anyway, so it was like like 2.5 hours with Dunge and Adam LaRoche, who's the guy whose property it was. He was an NBL baseball player.
Right.
He was all in the news because he walked away from, I want to say like $50 million for 6 months of baseball because they wouldn't let his son come to training anymore.
Really?
So like,
Hero.
yeah, he was like, like super nice guy.
Right.
So anyway, it was me, Dunge, and Adam, and it went like really well. And I honestly just enjoyed it so much. And I think I enjoyed it more because I'd worked with Dunge for so many years. And I know him really, really well. But then, I mean, maybe you've had this with people you've had on your podcast that you've known for a long time, but when you actually sit down uninterrupted for a few hours, then it's like you talk to a different person.
Yeah.
And you get a lot closer than what you could have in,
That's true.
I'd known Dunge for 6-7 years. And after 2 hours, I'm closer to the dude than what I was in 6 years. And then Dunge said to me after, he's like, "Hey man, like, how many interviews I've done, how much of this shit I've had to go through." And he's like, "That was the best interview I've ever done."
Wow.
And I was like, "Damn, that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of, and then they asked me to do something for Straight Rhythm. So we did like another thing for Straight Rhythm, and that went really good. And then I sort of started to toy with the idea of like doing one myself, and then I did one with Malcolm McCassie that started Ethica.
Yeah.
And then Nick Evanu, who is kind of like just an industry dude. But that was like the first episode of Gypsy Tales officially was with Malcolm.
Oh, awesome! I'd not actually heard that one, but yeah, I'd need to check that out. I think. I respect Malcolm a lot. I think just because, again, when I was living over there, he was the guy at Alpine Stars at the time. Just full industry guy. Like he was. Yeah, I used to look up to that guy a little bit.
Was Wiener at Alpine Stars back then?
Don't think so. I don't know. Definitely like Malcolm. Never met the guy. Just used to see him around at races, and he used to. He did like the Groms video. I think what was it, Gromageddon or something? He sort of had.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Mini Warriors.
Yeah,
and Gromageddon.
Gromageddon. Yeah. So but it's funny that you said that because when I first listened to your episode, the first one I listened to was Travis, and I recognized your voice, and I couldn't figure out where from. And then I was Googling last night, and I saw you did the pre-show or post-show for Straight Rhythm, and I'm like,
yeah, the pre-show, yeah.
There it is. That's where it came from. So that's funny.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool you saw that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, dude, Wygant, I love Wygant so much.
Yeah. That's cool. Because does he do the Racer X podcast now?
Yeah, I think he just started
Yeah.
after, so I got into doing some of the podcast stuff, and I was telling him he needed to get his own. He's one of the nicest guys, of all time.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I've never met him, but again, he's been on a few things that I listen to. Like I listen to Main Event. I really like Main Event podcast, which is Daniel Blair's thing.
Yeah, right. I didn't know that he had one.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sick.
it's killer. It's really, really good. Daniel's, again, we were saying before, like one of those guys that just become a friend just from listening to his podcast, and we started exchanging a few messages, and then obviously the band, he's got a band called Main Event too, so he gives us our intro music. Our intro music's from Main Event, because music's really hard to source, right? Especially if you're putting it on iTunes and stuff. So he's like, yeah, just use whatever you want. So he just did all of the music for Travis's new film.
Oh, yeah.
So the music in that, a lot of it is Main Event. So he sent us all those tracks, so that's our intro music.
That's sick.
All comes full circle, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's such that's what I say to people too. Like whenever anyone's like, "Oh, how do I get into this?" I'm like, "It's just an industry, dude. Like, one person that knows that person that knows that person, and then that person knows the head or the most the biggest name you could think of in that industry.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. I think, and it looks so unattainable from the outside when you're looking in at dude, growing up, man, Ricky Carmichael was just my fucking idol. Never, you couldn't if you told me 15-year-old me would be really good friends with him at this point in my life, I'd be like, how? It's impossible. But it's just that one, you just get a foot in the door. Wygant, I always tell people Jason Wygant has the raddest story. He was a flagger at High Point.
Is that right? Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Just a flagger at High Point. And then he just one day, he has told me the story, but it was probably over a few drinks. But I'm pretty sure the guy that did the announcing at a Loretta Lynn's qualifier or something, he went real hard on the drink the night before, lost his voice, and then Weege was like, "Hey, I bet I could commentate." And then that's how it started, bro.
Wow.
And now he's commentated the Nationals.
Yeah.
So it's it is it is a small world in any industry. And even for me, I was heavy into golf when I was in the States. I mean, I still love golf, but it's just a bit harder for me to play here because I don't have a lot of friends that play. But, it was I'd kind of start at the local club, and then you meet a couple people through something, and then you do a film for Red Bull and golf, and then, this guy who's this guy's agent, and then next thing you know, you're at the President's Cup, drinking with the entire US team after they just win. So it's it's always that. Every industry is way smaller than you think.
Yeah, it is for sure. Yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know most of the time as well. I think that
and that's why
certainly plays out, right? Don't burn bridges and stuff.
Yeah, be a dude you'd want to hang out with.
Yeah, that's again with the podcast has been the cool journey of guests. A lot of it is I started off just with friends, similar to what you have, right? Just friends, just sitting down and having a chat, and then it's sort of grown from there. I had the major turning point for this was Danny Hart. Danny reached out and was like, "Oh, I've been listening. Can I come on?"
Oh, that's sick.
And I'm like, "Yeah, of course you can." Let's do it. And that was the major flip for the whole thing. It just then it really started to rocket. But yeah, since it's just been someone recommends someone and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really hustle too hard to get guests. I just sort of let people come to me if I can, really, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what's your ultimate goal for the podcast then? And you said about getting the warehouse and all that sort of stuff, going full JRE, but how do you see this whole platform growing?
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, it's been weird. The whole thing, it's already bigger than I ever thought it'd be.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of weird. I think as I've got older and as I've done a lot of stuff, I've been, I was 18 and I just started a business. I've done everything. And it's I've traveled and I've done all this stuff. And even with the film stuff, I'm oh man, I'm this close to this, and then this is going to happen. And you start living in this place of having these expectations. And it's I'm in this weird place now where it's like I honestly just want to not think about it
Yeah.
and not have those expectations anymore, because I think that expectations breed disappointment. But then you have to balance that with goals, right? So it's like if you're so scared of disappointment that you don't have any goals, then you're kind of never going to get anywhere. So it's like it's
That's
definitely
true,
a balancing act of like you've got to balance the level of expectation you have to where if it doesn't work, you're not going to be so defeated that you quit. So it's like you have to teeter on that line of inspiration versus like expectation if you get kind
So
of fucked
true.
over.
And I think a podcast does that because, like you were saying before, it's really hard to push it without using social media. And sometimes, like, I've put an episode out and I'll look at the stats like a few days later and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it's nowhere near where I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And then it'll just take you by surprise and all of a sudden start shooting up or whatever. And yeah, I think I'm way more chilled with this thing now. Like I used to really hustle after like bigger and bigger guests, and it's like, no, you know what? Just chill out, man. Like as long as I'm having fun these days, I'm just kind of like whatever, and people are engaged. Like it's good enough for me, right? But what I've noticed over here, is like the whole podcasting is just growing. Like it's 100%.
The UK, man, the UK is like one of the biggest markets for podcasting now. Like, have you heard of Acast?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So they approached me like a while ago about like kind of getting on their platform. And they like all the dudes that are in Australia working for it were from the UK.
Really?
So like when they sent me, I should actually forward it to you. They sent me like their deck with everything. And they were just like, yeah, the stats on the UK and podcasting is crazy. Yeah. Like they do your mum wrote a porn or my dad wrote a porno.
Oh,
like
do
they do all that. Yeah, they do like a lot of the big ones in the UK, and then they just like kind of launched in Australia. But yeah, I was like shit, the UK is on fire.
Yeah, well we've got like we've got the BBC here, so the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yep.
And they're investing a lot of money into podcasting these days. So all of the major radio shows have got a podcast, you know, like an accompanying podcast. They're quite heavily into cycling. They've got they've got a bespoke podcast, which is a friend of mine is actually the producer for that. So there was a bunch of stuff happening before where there was potentially going to be like a mountain bike segment, which I was going to do. I've never told anyone about that. I kept it under the radar, but it's not happening anymore anyway because they canned it. But they're major into it, and it just seems to be just growing. I mean, like, yeah, there's a bunch of new mountain bike podcasts starting, which is really sick to see. And yeah, it's good. It's in a good place, I think, and it's only going to get better. Like, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, man, like, so we've been sort of going after like advertising and stuff. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm so lucky just through
like filming connections too. Anyway.
Yeah, like it's crazy, dude. So like Boost Mobile is like our main sponsor.
Yeah.
And so I just know those guys through filming. It's kind of, again, it's like that small industry kind of deal. But yeah, so I know those guys. So they've really allowed me to like put a lot of effort into it to where like I kind of, I did like a few film days last week, and I've been taking on a few projects. A friend of mine owns Fist Handwear.
Oh yeah.
Sam, you would have seen Fist, like Mark Webb wears and stuff like that. Yeah. So like I'd do some Fist videos and like some stuff here and there, some stuff with V8 Supercars. But I guess like in terms of the goal for the podcast is just to, I guess, create enough revenue to where like I can just do it full time. Because it's the thing I enjoy the most right now. Like I really enjoy the people I've met. I enjoy the feedback in terms of, you know, the times where people have said it like has helped them and you know, being able to, because like the way I look at it is like, and I've said this on Gypsy Tales, is like I've been really lucky to kind of like get to hang out with these people that a lot of people wish they could hang out with, and I did that through the filmmaking side of things, and I got to kind of know these people. So it's like I got lucky to where my job let me be around these people. And then it's like, all right, so let's say Travis Pastrana, for instance. Like there's people out there where he's their idol, or like people like yourself where you spend so much time watching him. So it's like, I guess the way I'm looking at it a little bit is like, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are like kind of like struggling with the everyday kind of, you know, like the real mundane aspects of life. And it's like, when's a person going to get to have a 2.5 hour conversation with Travis Pastrana?
Yep.
Like they're probably not. So it's like, if I'm in a position to be able to bring that to people, then that's like a really cool thing to like give people these like mentors that they, you know, get to have time with. So I think like, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's like kind of one of my main motivations for this now is like, I think for a long time I took for granted the position that I was able to find myself in through like the film side of stuff. So it's like I don't know, it feels like, I don't know if like giving back is the right, I don't know. It's just like, it's cool to be able to bring people a look at a place they just wouldn't get to see. And I think that a podcast is a great like medium for that because it is intimate. And like the thing that I always say to people as well is it's like what we're doing right now, like I've got headphones in, you've got headphones in, and all you can hear is me and all I can hear is you. Like podcasting is the only format in the world where the person that consumes the content is experiencing it in the exact same way as the people that make the content. So if you think about a movie set, like let's think about fucking Transformers. There's green screens everywhere. There's no robots. There's makeup people. There's catering. There's a director. There's gaffers. There's like hundreds of people that are on set, and the actors themselves aren't experiencing what actually gets produced. So it's like it's not relatable, man. Like it doesn't resonate. So there's a thing that happens in podcasting where the person consuming the content gets to just slide exactly into the way that content was created. There's like this direct link there. And I think that's what makes it so unique. And I always tell people it's just like the campfire element. Like, what's the oldest form of communication?
Yeah, for sure.
Is sitting around a campfire and there's no noise apart from like the crackle of the fire, and you're telling the story about the fucking saber-toothed tiger that you got away from today.
Yeah, or so primal. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's like, I think it's like rediscovering, like you said before, the art of conversation.
Yeah.
So I think
like the more, we do get consumed by social media and this constant need for, endorphins and stuff, like people want to escape from that, whether it is escaping into a podcast or, you have to look at, I think without getting all woo-woo, the rise of meditation and mindfulness and stuff, like people want to, I heard this ages ago, people used to use social media to get away from life, but now people use life to get away from social media. And that's so goddamn true, right? Like, it's so true. Yeah. If you're not careful, this shit will eat you up and spit you out, just depressed, looking at other people's lives on Instagram, just like, fuck, what am I doing?
You know what's crazy, man? Like, so I've had Bliss from Bliss and Esso was like,
that was a rad episode, man. That was so good.
Yeah, he was like, he's fully on this like mindfulness kick. And you know what's crazy, bro? Is he's found surfing and he's found mountain biking. And I'm like, I said to him, I was like, I've never been into the meditation thing. Like, I've just never felt like that need. Yeah. But it's only been recently, man. It was maybe 6-7 months ago. I was riding with Glenn, and we were doing this trail called Cheapy. No, it wasn't Cheapy's. It was Clifton's. Right. So, bro, it's like handlebar width trees, all crazy jungle roots with that red clay, that cans dirt, and it's like, it's fucking pinned. Like, even with both brakes on, like, you're still cruising.
Right.
And there's like all these roots trying to grab you. Like, it's the easiest trail I've ever ridden to crash on. And so I just fucking pinned it down there, and we stopped halfway down, and I just had like the biggest epiphany, bro.
Right.
I was like, this is why I don't meditate. I was like, every single thing, because what's the goal of meditation, right?
Yeah.
Is to clear your mind.
Yeah.
Clarity.
Yeah.
Living in the moment. What better way to do that than be scared for your fucking life on a mountain bike?
That's the only thing you're thinking about, right? Is just riding your bike, like nothing. Yeah.
There's no room in your brain for any other thought, because it's like that whole like when you look into the science of it, it's like that prefrontal cortex, all the energy goes into that because it's all like your motor skills. It's all dependent on that for survival.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. And man, like now dude, like when you can explain that to people, like, man, I'm sure there's so many people that are going to listen to this podcast that like their wife or their girlfriend is like, you fucking ride too much. Like, and it's great. And man, I've had this conversation with like so many of my friends and I don't know if I've spoken about it on the podcast, but it's like when somebody says to you, like, I think that the issue with like the relationship side of things, like, don't you spend too much time riding your mountain bike or blah, blah, blah. It's like, I think people in relationships are scared that like if you're putting a lot of effort into something that's not them, then there must be something wrong with them. So I think that's like one part of the issue. But like the plain and simple thing is like, this is the meditation. Like this is what it takes for me to be like a balanced human. And as soon as I kind of got like, as soon as I had that epiphany, and I mean, I've honestly been the dude that like, I don't care. Like I'll ride whenever I want. It doesn't matter. But like now to be able to, but I always thought that was like selfish and purely for my own kind of, you know, like my own needs, but I didn't exactly know why. But now I just explain to people, I'm like, man, that's my meditation. Like that's so where I go to get away from it. And it's the same, dude. It's the same with surfing. Like I surf a lot. I have a stump jumper and I hit the trails as much as I can. I've still got my moto. And now with jiu-jitsu, like when you've got a dude that's trying to fucking literally choke you to sleep, like you don't have time to think about how shit your day was, or that some dude cut you off in traffic, or that your girlfriend's nagging on you, or that you got some bills you haven't paid. It's like, it's just that pure raw survival. And that is meditation. And I think that people that don't have action sports like we do, they need something to take them out of that. And it's hard. Like, dude, I've tried meditating. Fucking it's hard.
It is
I
tough.
suck at it.
Yeah, it is tough.
But we're all like, dude, we're all gurus when it comes to meditation. Like anyone listening to this podcast that mountain bikes, they know how to get into the moment. They know how to be present, and they know how to get all of the things that, people are looking for in meditation. And it was just cool to, after I had that kind of thought, that then to get bliss, say like, dude, I've just started surfing and mountain biking. Like a guy that he didn't come from this thing, and he's like got the Headspace app, and he's like all about mindfulness, and then he finds out that, hey, all I need to do is fucking drop in on like a crazy wave or like ride my mountain bike. Like this is the ticket.
So true. That's a great way of explaining it, man, too. That's rad. Really, really, really cool.
So like anyone out there that your chick or your mum and dad's like giving you a problem for riding your bike too much and spending too much time on the trails, just be like, meditation, bro.
Yeah, man. I need this shit. Otherwise, I'm going to tear you to pieces.
And I always use this analogy of like that, that champagne shower, like great Gatsby style, where they like stack champagne glasses on top of each other. They pour it into the top and it funnels down. Like you're the cup at the top of that fountain, and every cup underneath that is like people or things that you touch in your life. And if you take away, like you need to fill up that top cup first, which is you, in order to have the effect that trickles down and fills up everybody else's cup. So it's like, if you don't fill up your own cup, nobody that is underneath you is getting their cup filled up either. And I think that it's like, that's what, that's the secret. Fill up your own cup, find what, kind of makes you fulfilled, and then you can give the things that you want to give. You can't do it in the opposite way.
No, it's true, dude. Very well explained. Love that. Love it. Huge takeaway for people, that I think, because it is like everyone. You're having a bad day. What do you want to do? You want to go ride your bike. It's your mindfulness. It's you gain that clarity and you get away from everything. You don't have to think about nothing. It's true.
Well, I mean, dude, I've got so many times where I'm like rushed. I got to training. I'm like stressed out. And I'm like ready to like call some dude and fucking blow up, or I'm ready to have an argument. And then you train or you ride, and then you sit back in the same car when an hour ago you were like ready to go off. And then in the exact same car an hour later, you're like, nah, that's not a big deal.
No.
Oh, I can get around this.
Yeah.
And I think, it's just people discount that effect because it looks so fun. And I think that people, there's like, I don't know, people definitely have like an adverse reaction to like shit that's fun.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
society in
I think
general,
jealousy too, right? Like there's probably a lot of people that don't really find time to go for a surf or a ride, and again, it's all about how you set your life up, right? Like it's you need that time. Like you need to check out of work early. You need to go take a couple of hours to yourself. Like it's so important.
Well, and I mean, if you're not doing that, then what are you doing?
Yeah, you're
like
just working for the man, probably, right? Like,
and like, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
Like ultimately, it's gonna circle back in some way to like, oh, I'm doing this so that I can afford to go on a holiday or I can buy a new mountain bike. It's like, it's always kind of like the cart before the horse scenario. It's like, no, start putting the horse before the cart, and then it'll be fucking easy to drive.
Yeah, true. Huh. Dude, that was so well explained. I love that. That's a huge takeaway. Huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, dude, I trust me, I put a lot of thought into that kind of weird shit, predominantly because it gets me, lets me do what I want.
Sick. All right. I reckon we wrap at that. Is that cool?
Yeah, man.
I got some meetings to go take care of and stuff. So yeah, dude, I want to obviously say a huge thank you for doing this. Where can people find out more about your stuff and some links and stuff like that?
So for the podcast, it's just, if you just search Gypsy Tales podcast on iTunes, it's on there. You can follow us on the gram at Gypsy Tales. Yeah, it's just at Gypsy Tales podcast. And then mine's just my name at Jase Macalpine.
Perfect.
And I try and post a bit of stuff on there, but anyone that wants to listen to the podcast, I'd appreciate it. And I'll make sure like I share this episode with like our crew as well.
Rad, thank you. Well, obviously there'll be in the description there'll be all the links to social media and a link to your show, and everything will be there.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks for definitely thanks for the chat. Like it's cool for me to like, I really don't have anyone that I can talk to that's kind of been doing the podcast stuff as long as you have. So
mate, cool if I can help you honestly with anything, like it sounds like you're way more advanced with me as far as like tech and stuff like that. But I noticed the other day, like you said about Spotify listening's pretty tough. I could probably help you with that if you've not already sorted it. That's just a hard one. But we just signed up with like this new company, Art19. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. Nah. They're like a LA kind of startup. Fighter and the Kid is on them. Oh, is
and
it?
like
okay.
Below the Belt. Yeah, because I knew Shorb like just from living in LA.
Really?
Yeah, so he kind of like he got that shit hooked up. So,
wow.
But
dude, I'm
they're
a
like
huge T5K fan. Huge. I was listening to it just before we started doing this. Yeah, I was just listening to the latest one. I've not missed one of those episodes for probably 4 years.
Dude, I was just texting with Shorb the other day about the whole Dana thing. I sent him some funny shit. So
literally, I was just listening about that just then.
I can't believe that shit, man. Like, the retarded thing is that like it only makes Brendan bigger and seem more legitimate, right? So it's like if you've got Dana White, that's like the top of the organization, the top of the food chain, and then you've got like the media dudes down below. And then you've got Dana White that singles out Brendan Schaub, and then all of a sudden that then puts Brendan's voice on the same level as Dana's voice. And it's like, dude, do you not get that what you're doing is like really elevating like Brendan here?
He's
like this guy
so
that you just
fucking
fucking
on,
hate.
I've got mass respect for Brendan. Like I said, I've been a fan for a while, but what he's done, obviously, and being able to track that journey from being a fighter to starting a podcast to going into stand-up comedy to presenting, like that shows you the power of a podcast too. Because obviously, you had a platform before, right? But it's really elevated since the T5K.
Dude, and honestly, man, like, it was really cool for me to see. Like, I did some stuff in studio with them, and like was helping him out with a bit of stuff, and like film-wise, like. His producer channel hit me up to ask her just, camera stuff because he's an audio engineer. But like when I was in the studio with them for like the few weeks that I was kind of going there helping, his work ethic is crazy, dude.
Really?
Like he is, and I thought from the outside looking in, like before I met him, that it would be the other way around. Like Callan would be the dude that was be kind of steering that ship. It's all Brendan, dude.
Wow.
Like, yeah, he is a hustler.
Right.
Like, yeah, it was really cool to, like, I guess just get to see his level of work ethic and the way that he went about stuff. But yeah, so anyway, the I guess Art 19, they've got some stuff with Spotify, so just kind of it's on me to sort of chase that whole deal up.
Okay.
But it's like, it's all just new shit.
This dude, the Spotify listening's huge though. Like that
I
really
know.
excelled this podcast. Honestly, it really did. Yeah, we went on there. I fucked up actually a little bit because we went on there after the Danny Macaskill episode. So it must have been, I don't know, maybe like 10 episodes ago, maybe something like that. But Spotify is big. Like, it's crazy how many people have obviously got Spotify on the phone.
iTunes?
We do the same now on Spotify and iTunes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like double the money, son.
Yeah, well, it could be if there was any. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do like sponsors and sponsorships and stuff with you guys?
No.
You want to?
Yeah. Okay. So let me explain really quick because this is kind of confusing, and I want to clarify this for people that listen too, because there is actually no money exchanged hand with this podcast. The problem I've got is I sort of cornered it a little bit. So obviously when I started it, I never expected this thing to go where it went. So it's obviously called the Hook It Podcast, HKT. The distribution company is called Hook It Products.
Yeah.
In hindsight, looking back, I'd have called it a totally different name and maybe like sponsored it with Hook It. But because it's kind of in this little corner, you know, I've been approached by quite a few brands, but they obviously then say, oh, you're a distribution company. You don't distribute our brand. It don't make any sense. So I've like kind of cornered it a little bit. So there's been like bike brands approach before, like, yeah, I want to get involved. But I'm always like, oh, I kind of can't, you know? So we do have two sponsors. One of them is 35 Bikes, which is our own brand anyway. So we just do a bit of an offer code for people that listen. And then the other one is Sax Underwear. And I sort of work as a ambassador, and we're agents for Sax in the UK. So that's a Canadian underwear brand. But yeah, again, it's crazy, dude. Like I was literally speaking to someone just the other day about this. It's crazy how much this podcast has helped build that brand in the UK. Like it's insane. Like the amount of people that buy a pair of those underwear just because they listen to this podcast is crazy. And it's not like I'm trying to hard sell it. It's just that they help out. So I do a little bit of a read, and that's it. But yeah, obviously it'd be cool to do that in the future, but it's just finding the right companies that aren't tied to us or any other distributor or, do you know what I mean? It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the thing with like Gypsy Tales, like I just went up the ads like pretty well straight away, just through like contacts and stuff like that. And I actually had a couple people like come to me like crush Bike Wash and stuff like early days, just because they were like fans of the podcast and wanted to like kind of get on board and help out, and it really did help out at the start. But yeah, it's like I just think with like I'm really, really cautious of selling dog shit basically, and being like a snake oil guy. So like we've got we've got like Boost and then Nobby Underwear, which they're like a subscription underwear company started in Oz, and like, but I was like wearing that stuff before, and then so like it was like random to where I saw that they liked one of the posts, and I was like, damn, like I actually have like their subscription anyway. So then I like DM'd them on Instagram, and they hit up. So it's like I've like, while we've like had sponsors the whole time, it's like people that I'm like super into. And the same with like Boost. Like I was on Boost Mobile because their data is like, I use so much data, dude. Like it's actually a joke. And like it's kind of embarrassing. Like you want to talk about that whole social media thing. Like when you go like a week into like, when you go to like a week of into like a month-long deal and you run out of data and you get that like 5 megabyte text, I'm like, fuck, you are kidding. I'm like, you are not on the gram this much. Like seriously, bro. But yeah, so I was like, again, and then like I kind of knew those dudes. So I was like, look, man, I already use your shit. Because it's like, I don't know, you definitely, I feel like you work pretty hard to get the people listening that you do. And if you take advantage of them in any way when
Yeah.
it comes to the advertising. It's just like,
I agree.
eesh.
I mean, obviously,
And
with your podcast provider, you can probably like go monetized, and they'll put ads on your podcast for you. And I'm just like, nah. Like the downloads are good enough to do that, but like, nah, that's not happening. No way would I ever sell out like that.
And I said no to that shit straight away too. I was like, nah, I'm
some mattress company or something.
Like, dude, I got hit up by a mattress company. And
Me too.
Nah. Yeah, I feel like they troll podcasts.
Oh, 100% they do. Like, but yeah, I'm really cautious of that myself. Of that, but obviously, it'd be cool in the future. I mean, if anyone wants to get involved, like for sure, but it's got to be the right company at the right time, and you know. Yeah, I just don't want to sell out. I'm really cautious of that. I'm really, really cautious of it. And yeah, it's the same with like listening to other people's stuff. I'm really careful with that. Like I try not to get inspired too much by anyone else's shit. So I'm pretty careful what I dip my toe into. Like, because I don't want to ever, I mean, I'm not like super, you know, I'm not super, what's the word? Sort of like, what's the word?
Like really watching it.
Yeah, I'm not, like when you're an artist and stuff like that, I can't remember the word. Oh, it's stroke starts with a C. I've had a mind blank. Sorry.
That's all good.
Anyway, I'm not that anyway. Whatever that is.
I'm not that thing that I can't explain.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super careful of not getting too like inspired by other stuff, and like, yeah, I don't want to have that feeling that I've copied something ever. Like I never want that. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, like I've fully got that, and like, man, I have this like, I don't know whether this is retarded, but I have this like vision of fucking Hype Beast or one of these like shitty ass fucking clickbaity blogs that will like run an article one day saying like the wannabe Australian Joe Rogan, and like because of like the show's similar, I'm gonna build a studio, like I've fucking been into martial arts and shit, and I'm like for sure one day someone is gonna say that, and so like even for me, like I love listening to Joe's stuff, and then even, you know, like when Brendan's on there, like like him being a friend, I'm like watching, but I'm the same. Like I've really tried to stop listening, and yeah, I hope it doesn't sound contrived for me to say that, but I just fully can see someone running that article one day and being like,
as long as you know in your own head that you've not gone after that, I think that's pretty interesting. But like, how can you not be inspired by Joe's shit though? Like he's got that rad studio. I mean, the download figures must be they are astronomical. Like the revenue that's being earned from that, if you're into that sort of stuff, will be like, I've seen obviously breakdowns of what companies will pay for an ad, and the amount of downloads that's getting, like, dude, and he does like 3. It'll be, I wouldn't even want to think like what that's making per week. It'll be insane.
Yeah, that's like, I guess that's like one of my things that I want to get to is like where I do more than one a week. Like that's one of my goals, because like it's crazy that like you wouldn't think, and I definitely wouldn't have thought this at the start, that I'd be able to sustain a pace of even one a week. But now, like, dude, I did 5 last week or the week before, and now I've got like 5 weeks of like trying not to do any podcasts because like I haven't recorded one in weeks.
So do you queue everything up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Okay.
So
see, like, I don't do that. Because I think what's interesting as well and what's cool is you get listeners involved. So if you're doing like listener questions for somebody, but then it doesn't come out for a month, like I like to do like a guest release on a Sunday, submit any questions people might have got, record it on a Tuesday, put it out on Tuesday. And it's like people are like engaged with it, like they're excited for whatever episode it might be. So that's kind of interesting. Plus, you can get a bit of a run up from the guests you've got coming on too, because you say, "Oh, just post something, like just ask if anyone's got any questions," and it's like, boom, you'll get a couple of followers and blah 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 blah, and it's just like super engaged then because people will subscribe and wait for the episode to drop.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
That's worth considering for yourself, maybe.
Yeah, well, like because we've just gone on Art19 with which is like that new platform, that it's just like I can just do one ad read for the week or the month or whatever, and then that goes on like every single episode, or I can choose. So like I'm doing like, I don't know if you saw it the other day, but I did like a podcast with like a famous jiu-jitsu dude.
Yeah.
And I just called it like the grappling show. Yeah. So it's like, so people aren't, but it was actually really cool. Like I actually felt really good about that because it got a lot of downloads. Like, it was real comparative to like some of the other stuff. So I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool, because it was all jiu-jitsu, like all grappling, and you know, that's not our fan base kind of thing. But yeah, it's like I can put specific sponsors now. So like we've got a company that's like the BTO Sports of like martial arts.
Right.
So they'll be on like all of those different shows. So it's like there's some cool stuff, but it's just like transitional. So like right now, people pay per show, and it's kind of like budgeted out at like one a week. Otherwise, people like, it'd just be like fucking stupid for them, because I could just run up 5 episodes.
Yeah, you could do 5 episodes, and just be like, hey, you owe me this. Yeah.
So, which I don't want to do. So I'm like, it's just a, you know, it's like, it's just a process. Like, I'm slowly switching everybody over to like, if I do 20 podcasts this month, it's the same price if I do, or like working on a downloads thing. So I guess it's just early days with that, but it's sort of, dude, like I have one of the best, I think it'll be like one of the best podcasts just in the history of podcasting, with like the most unknown dude ever. His name's Graham Abbo Henry. You can look him up, dude. He's like famous Sydney gangster, like full underworld. Yeah, he's in his 70s now.
That's
and
sick.
Like, bro, it's like, I'll send you like an audio snippet of it, dude. Like, he is out of control. He went to jail. I can't remember how many years he said he did now, but it was like, I think he did like 12 years for like stabbing a cop. But before that, he had the green light to do like whatever crime he wanted, and he was paying all the cops. Like, he was paying judges, he was paying cops, he was paying everybody, bro. And yeah, so like he went on this organized crime, like he ran a gang for like 20 years or something. He robbed like Cockatoo Island. He did all like the biggest robberies in like Australian history and shit.
How the hell did you get him on?
So it's fucking crazy. But one of my best friends, his kids play football with his grandkids.
Right. Okay.
And then so I just called him up and I was like, hey, Abbo, you keen to do a podcast? He's like, what the fuck's a podcast? And I was like, I like went through this whole process. So like, dude, it's just the heaviest thing. And it was like gnarly, because like halfway through the podcast, he started talking about like the 20th assassination attempt that he'd had on his life. And I was like, so where you at with all this? And he's like, oh yeah, they still want me, but they haven't been able to get me. And I was just like, motherfucker, they're going to walk in right now while we're recording this podcast. They're going to leave the cameras rolling. Our fucking murders are going to be documented. And this will make news all over the world.
Yeah, this will blow up, but you won't be around.
And we'll be dead. But I like, no shit, bro. It took me out of the conversation. Like, I was like, for 5 minutes, I was just on this little mind tangent of like, holy fuck, like, wow. I don't think I thought this through. Like, I just sat down with this guy, like, and he's like, I don't know, we're talking about something, and he's like, I was like, well, you weren't exactly known for like violence, were you? And he's like, nah, I wasn't known for violence. He's like, but you know, people knew if you fucked me over, I'd cut you in half. And I'm just like, Jesus. What? Yeah, like, it's that for 3 hours, dude. But like,
I can't wait.
But like, I'm sitting on that, and he's like texting me, like he texted me yesterday, like, when's it going to be up? And I'm like, dude, like, you're fucking in the queue, man. Like,
yeah.
And I want to just put it up, because I think, again, that's like part of the beauty of it as well with podcasting, is like, put it up when you do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it's just a process. But
obviously, when you're doing live stuff too, you're gonna have to put them straight out as well. So you got to get back in that cycle, aren't you? Of just rinse and repeat.
And I'm like, dude, I'm super excited for the live thing, because then you know what it's like. You don't have to edit. Like, right now, I have to switch all the cameras manually. Right. Like, after I film it, like, it's just it just takes so much time.
Is it just you then?
Yeah, just me.
Wow, killer.
Yeah, my girlfriend helps me out a bit. Like, okay. she's learned Premiere and like kind of hooks in a little bit when she has to. But for the most part, it's like just me. And then my brother has like a marketing agency called Alpine Group. So he helps me out with some of like the press release side of it, and some of the guests that have come on are like people that he knows as well.
Yeah, because obviously you've had a super varied like guest catalogue. I mean, to talk to you, you're obviously heavily involved in action sports, but then, you know, I think, what was the one I listened to the other day? Struthless. That was sick. Oh, yeah. Like, dude, I was so interested in that podcast. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd obviously never heard of the guy in my life. Like, I don't know if it's like an Aussie thing that he's doing. Is for anyone listening, Struth's he's an illustrator, right? Like a relatively big Instagram account. But such a like knowledgeable young dude, like just dropping knowledge bombs constantly the whole way through the podcast. And yeah, like I really enjoyed that one. I listened to it while I was driving the other day.
It was cool too because like he has opposing views to me on like a bit of stuff, like, and it was really cool to have a super civilized conversation with a guy that didn't necessarily agree with me and I didn't necessarily agree with him.
Yeah.
And I think that like we both got a lot out of that. There was even times in the podcast where I was like, fuck yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that now.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like it was really cool to sit down with a guy like that. And that, yeah, we didn't really see eye to eye, but we could still have a super civilized combo. And then we went out in Sydney afterwards.
Oh, really? There's a bit of a pattern there, isn't there? You do a podcast, go out, get drunk and loose.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's the move. That's why I do them in person.
Dude, honestly, I'm jealous of that. I really am. Like, I was really trying to do more like behind the scenes stuff, but I've done a couple in person, but it's obviously the guests that I've wanted. It just wouldn't be feasible to fly them over here, and it's just impossible. So I went down this route of being able to sit and chat with anyone from around the world at pretty much any time. But obviously, it's really helped the whole thing get going. But yeah, moving forward, I've got my new little Zoom recorder now, which we did a bit of you did the
Crankworks thing, right?
Yeah, I did that. That was all live. That was cool. That was a good opportunity. Again, came from doing the podcast and having Darren Kinnaird on as a guest. Yep. He's the general manager of Crankworks.
Yeah, sweet.
And yeah, rad opportunity, man. He literally was like, "Do you want to come out to Crankworks and do some podcasts?" I was like, yeah,
"That's sick."
Of course, yeah. I do. But it was a huge learning experience, though, man. Like it was way harder than I expected it would be. Screwed up a few of the audios. Like I had a really good chat with Nikolai Rogatkin. It was so interesting, but I didn't press record on the thing. Little things like it's just a learning experience, dude. Like, literally got thrown in at the deep end at that. It's like, right, you're here in France at Leger, go find some guests. There was no plan at all. So I got a cool little plan. I might speak to you about that after, actually.
Let me know if you need help with that.
Yeah, I might speak to you about that. I got a plan for Crankworks, but yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. But it was such a cool experience, dude. Like, super sick.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely hit you up, like, next time I'm in the UK.
Yeah, let's do another.
I think that's one of my, like, goals with the podcast. Like, I've actually got, I got a trip to Thailand that I'm doing in like 3 weeks or something. Wow. But it's for like the grappling kind of podcast that I've unofficially started. But it just like lives within Gypsy Tales. But particularly like there's this dude Lachlan Giles. He's actually competed in the UK yesterday.
All right.
And he's like one of the best coaches in Australia. He coaches one of the best dudes in the world. And he's doing a camp in Thailand. And I DM'd him on Instagram and I was like, "Hey, dude, Ben just came on the podcast. He's one of his students." He's like, "Yeah, I listened to it." And I was like, "Well, hey, I want to come to your school in Thailand. So maybe I come there and then we do the podcast at the end of the school." And he was like, "Fuck yeah, done."
Wow.
So I kind of want to start doing a little bit, maybe more of some of that travel stuff. But I guess, again, like that, having that film background, and like all that equipment and stuff sort of makes it like that little bit easier, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. But surely you're a little burnt out on traveling as well.
Yeah, I am. But like for stuff like that, like I'm just frothing, Like I'm definitely not gonna hit up the Australian MX Nationals anytime soon to like fucking do. But
that's
a podcast
where I feel
there.
like a lot of this stuff's heading, dude. Like being able to do like the Crankworks thing live from Crankworks and do like a bit of an accompanying podcast. Sure. I feel like that's the way this thing's sort of going. It's just a case of finding the events and the event organizers having the foresight that it can be super beneficial for them.
Yeah, well, that's what Straight Rhythm was. Like, I went to them and I said, like, dude, we could do this shit live on Facebook. And I mean, it had like 50,000 views there. So it's like, that's a fucking stadium full of people that are like watching your event that can't get there. Not everyone can get to Crankworks. Not everyone can get to Straight Rhythm. Like, let's give people an experience that makes them feel like they are there. That's not just the standard broadcast.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, there you go. All right, let's wrap. But I want to talk to you after, so don't go.
Yeah.
Again, thanks a bunch for doing this. anyone listening, go check out Gypsy Tales on iTunes and wherever else it is. YouTube. The YouTube one's really good because you can sit and watch it. That's pretty sick. Show links are in the description below, so check those out. Just click it; it'll take you through to Gypsy Tales on iTunes. And again, dude, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Nah, thanks for the invite, man.
Hopefully
it's my
helped
first podcast
your
I've
guests.
ever been on that's not mine.
Yeah, exactly, dude. You got to do it. You got to get out and do more. Like, yeah, hopefully it helps your guests know a little bit more about you and your background as well, which is interesting. So there we go. All right, that's a wrap. Episode 53, maybe. I don't know. Thanks for listening. Sick. And there you have it, folks. Episode number 53 to confirm in the bag. Hopefully you enjoyed listening. Don't forget you can follow Gypsy Tales by hitting the stuff in the show description. There's a link down there to the Instagram and iTunes and all that sort of stuff. So check that out. If you have enjoyed the episode, please leave us an iTunes review or wherever you listen. Just drop the episode a share on your social media. If you can reach out and tell us that you listen, just anything like that, it'd be much appreciated and it goes a hell of a long way. And don't forget to follow us at the Hook It Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and that's pretty much it. T-shirts, there's not many left. Grab a t-shirt from 35bags.com. Promo code podcast will get you 20% off too. Added bonus. And that's a wrap, folks. Have a killer rest of your week and keep it positive, people. Peace out.